Jesus Christ and his cousin John the Baptist.
You're itching for an argument, a fair and balanced way with somebody that's going to have your best interest at heart. Because you're going to have their best interest at heart. I know you. You're always trying. And they're trying your patience all the time. I was talking about the storm surge of 1134. I do think that that's right around the time when the Lord was born, and that other 1,000 years was made up, added to history to try to confuse us. We have covered there. Was it in 1134? Well, all the historical records lead to it, and all leads to a cover-up. The Zwin Inlet could be much older than previously thought, but they don't know. They really don't. They even come down to type, look, where's the one? Well, was it really a disaster? To what extent we can label this flood as a disaster? I mean, that's begging questions, and they're still talking about it. And what they're saying is that it opened it up from Dom to Bruges. And I had a lot of information about Bruges, but I couldn't find it. But we're going with what we got. But notice that it opened it up and returned it a different way. The history of this does not match. And it does match the canals in London and the canals in New York. Those are the two I've taken time that their history of it, being built and rebuilt around the early 1800s, and then rebuilt, dredged more around 1848, and then redredged around 1913, you guessed it, and worked up, until 1939. All the other ones in the world got fixed up, all the old ones, and yeah, that was all. It's only less than 100 years old. Come on. Like I said, these are going to kind of be out of order here. This Inquisition page, I had to reset them up. All right. I'm just going to pick up here. However, since then, secondary sources publishing the statement have been inconsistent regarding the punctuation of the original Latin statement, Table 1. Maurice Finiciero calls attention to this in his 1989 The Galileo Affair documentary history. Finiciero includes the following translation: "The sun is the center of the world and completely devoid of local motion." Assessment: all said that this proposition is foolish and absurd in philosophy, and formally heretical, since it explicitly contradicts in many places the sense of Holy Scripture according to the literal meaning of the words, and according to the common interpretation and understanding of the Holy Fathers and the doctors of theology. 2. The earth is not the center of the world, nor motionless, but it moves as a whole and also with diurnal motion. Assessment: all said that this proposition receives the same judgment in philosophy, and that in regard to theological truth, it is at least erroneous in faith. However, at the point noted by asterisk, Finiciero has an endnote that reads, "At this point, between the word philosophy and the phrase informally heretical, the original text in the Vatican manuscript shows a semicolon." All right, now I just wanted to take these 2 minutes to let you know how much they're going to try to break down what we're clearly and obviously saying by punctuation and acting like, only I can interpret what he wrote, All right, so is 1134 turning up anywhere else? This is going to be a mixed thing here. Well, yes, 1134 is the Department of National Resources and Environmental Control, Division of Air Quality. It is their emissions banking and trading program. So all of that, when you talk about carbon, buying carbon and selling carbon, and being responsible for your carbon, yep, that's all under 1134. They're setting you up. You like it set up? Hope so. In and of itself, the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, ICS number 1134, type of hazard: fire, explosions, inhalation, skin. Do not eat, drink, or smoke. This is bad stuff. Sodium bisulfate, 30-40% in an aqueous solution, a water solution. I think they added that when the devil tried to take the woman back. This is the city of Dom that miraculously got built up. It was opened up from the flood. Was it a disaster or not? Of 1134. So here's a little history. This should be able to tie it into you a little bit about, the dates and stuff and how it matches with New York. It says in 1134, a storm surge ravaged the north coast and tore out a creek, later to be known as the Zwin, as far inland as the neighborhood of Bruges, which sought an outlet to the sea. A miracle happened. They immediately built a transverse dike. I get into that a little bit later at the extremity. A transverse dike is so hard to understand. And they're going to say that these little, like we like to think of Peter and Andrew as like, they were just little fishermen, throw out a net or throw out a spear. Oh my goodness, we have everything so wrong. And they try to make up a little history that, because of this little port, they got granted a city rights, and everything was just like the game by Sid Meier's Civilization. Common memory, and you're welcome. All right, 300 different goods were imported by Don.
Wait a minute. Did I miss this part? This would be the second time I couldn't let it go by. This was here where they... Meanwhile, Bruges had dug a canal to Dom, and the town quickly turned... It sounded like that. And the town quickly turned into a dynamic transportation port. No, not the Boston accent, please. But that it cleaned out a canal. It's all going on. Thank you for staying with me. All of these things. Oh, you're learning, and it's great because the world be turning.
Oh yeah, it just within 100 years, it was built up. Oh, but it didn't last long. Look, silt began to build up. Oh, they didn't notice. And so it took a long time to clean it out and get it going again. And then they had a wildly successful Protestant revolution there until the Jesuits got in there. And then, around 1725, things were getting bad again. And Napoleon had to come in and employed. So, he wasn't busy enough that they used. Just had a hankering for. All right, so the infema during a disaster. Why doesn't that thing go away? I'm trying to read that. There's some, it's like, anyway, it's a water disasters. Your water disasters are 1134. How do you make this go away? Anybody? And there's 11 emergency shore protection. Okay. Just a coincidence. You know that the numbers mean nothing to these people. Nothing. So on December 9th, 1965, about 4:43 Eastern Standard Time, shortly before sunset, people were engaged in their usual pursuits, but for some, the routine was momentarily interrupted by a most exciting event, of which I witnessed and I can attest. A brilliant ball of fire rocked.
That's not in there, of which I witnessed and I can attest, but I did see this. And I also, when the Neowise recent comet was there, I was out Mount Shasta in California, and I did see a falling star and an exploding shooting star. They're two different things. Amazing, amazing when you look at the sky. I encourage you to do it.
Through the daylight sky, the early afternoon sky. Even though lasting only a few seconds, people in 7 states and a section of Canada saw it. Those facing the right direction and having a clear view saw it best. Others had their attention prompted by a startling exclamation look, or by a bright reflection off a window. Some reported their shadow appeared faintly before them, then turned to look skyward. All right, this is not the picture of the one in 65. You can see it's trying to look like, oh, it's coming straight down the Earth. The Earth would be running parallel with this fireball at a height of maybe 400 yards, and it went over Canada and 7 states. I believe this is the path. Something that happened, and they're covering it up, and we'll get to it. I just want to show you the old Croton maps just to get an idea of how far they carried water 4 to 150 years ago. New Croton Reservoir. We're a long way to New York. That's an A. All ducks.
You know what? I don't want to get into the old Croton and everything else. And a lot of times, what I want you to understand is that Prester John, John the Baptist, the Bible's easy to understand once you get it in that time frame, that it was that fairy tale land that they made up. The Grimm's fairy tales and the lullabies, Mother Goose. They rewrote it to make it seem like it's ridiculous and not possible, but it was, because evolution never existed. There never was that other caveman paradigm to give you all these millions of years if you just, I don't know, what's another 1,000 years if Jesus was wrong? If Jesus was wrong, what difference does anything make? Ask yourself that question. If Jesus was wrong, why are we still talking? Because I know he existed. He walked. I believe that when they stabbed him and the blood and the water gushed out and it hit the earth, that's what they're stalling for. Hadron colliders trying to break elements. They're looking for that so they can synthesize his blood and water and hopefully live forever, because they're afraid of death. That's what separates Christians from everyone else. We've looked death in the face now that we know Christ, and we are not afraid. They are. They know not what they do. Prester John was John the Baptist. They added 1,000 years. Everything fits. There's no more dots to be connected. You only need to keep checking in, listen to Ben from Vat City and other people who base it on that, and we'll find the true Jesus. And we won't be like those people who knock and Jesus says, "Depart from me. You're wretched and vile. I know you not. I never knew you." But what about the hospitals that we built, the prophecies that we had? Depart, I never knew you. Don't let that be you. You only get this one chance on Flat Earth Nation, and it is a Flat Earth Nation. Don't let them tell you anything else. You know I'm not going to. Why would I? I have your best interest at heart and would be shocked I couldn't do it. How do I get out of here again?